Hey guys, it's Matt. I have to fake the lead in. I'd like to play the Phil Collins song, but if I play even 5 seconds of, even 1 second of it, the video will be blocked worldwide. And this important message and non-public service announcement, non-public, it only would relate to real souls and spirits. The public would have no idea what I'm about to present here. So it's a non-public service announcement. I'll do it myself. I think they still allow me to sing. I don't know. Maybe they'll block it because of this. Phil Collins, take me home. 'Cause I don't remember. We're going to remember after these few slides why we're here and the simple explanation as to what we're here to do in life. All of existence and reality in a few simple slides. And for some reason, I have the urge or propensity. Joel, do you hear a propensity of bass, perhaps? Propensity to do some weird things like sing the lead in Phil Collins because I can't play it. Because, I need to give people, this is so simple and so straightforward, those that really want an excuse to keep attaching to this reality and to do their very best to try to come back for another lifetime, I need to give them the excuse. So even though these slides make perfect sense, all of reality and existence, just in a few slides, they'll hear that I've done some strange things like sing the lead in, and they'll say, this can't be correct. Whoever's making this presentation must be a madman. What's that scene from Braveheart? Is your father a ghost or you converse with the Almighty? You're a madman. I came to the right place then. You came to the right place here if you want all of existence and reality in just a few slides. Either I'm a whacked out, arrogant son of a bitch, or it is as simple as this. You'll decide over the next hour. Just a few minutes on this slide. I don't have to explain to you our current state of affairs. You live our current state of affairs, whether you've been just doing this a few years or you go back, somebody like Greg on the big day where the job application was submitted in 2001. Greg came out of a test. He was trying to get a degree or something off his work hours, and he saw what was happening on the news, and he immediately turned to somebody, that can't happen. That can't, and the guy was like, what? Listen to the story they're telling about. Some people just see right through it. Some people have been doing this for 20 years. Some people back to the JFK, which was an assassination of JFK. That's two asses in a nation, if you look at the spelling of the word. What are you saying? That's of course I'm saying it's by design. See, through this sort of insanity, I'm giving people a way out so they don't have to believe the simple slides that are coming because they really don't want to believe it. They're young souls. They're not ready to graduate. Our state of affairs is very simple. Everything breaks down as faux when you look into it closely. What do you mean everything? I mean everything. Every historical presentation, everything presented through society and culture, what big forms of authority tell you is good and what you should be doing. Everything. I have sticky notes up, like I told you, that scene in The Omen where they put the Bible all over the four walls to keep the demon out. I have sticky notes of everything that's presented through society and culture. And if I throw a dart into everyone, and Zara's going to knock over my damn microphone. Zara, down, please, down. See, he is a madman. See, all this weird shit is in here on purpose, so people that are not ready to graduate have an excuse not to graduate. Everything breaks down as faux, and faux means false. What do you mean, Matt? You have millions of sticky notes with everything presented through society and culture, government, what is good from an educational perspective. Throw a dart, vomp, fossil fuels. They tell us oil and petroleum is a scarce resource, a fossil fuel. My Penn State professor in 1991, some sort of geosciences class, I don't think it was the Rocks for Jocks, but it was like it was Matt Sci 101 or something like that. He scared the shit out of the entire class, looked at us and said, within 8 or 9 years, we predict all oil will dry up. And then it was like the fallacy of future solutions. The class was like, surely we'll have another form of energy by then. We have a whole 9 years. He's like, no, he was saying it's going to dry up in less than a decade. But then that was what, 30 years ago? But the wells just keep producing, keep producing, keep producing. And there is no real scarcity because what do the manufacturers keep making? Gigantic, disgusting trucks and SUVs and big gas hogs. If there was any real scarcity, then they would shrink. You'd all be driving these little geo cars around that fit two and a squirrel in the back. There's no scarcity because the manufacturer will tell you in what they're making there's no scarcity. If oil was really going to run out, governments would get together. The manufacturers would reflect what really is going to happen to oil. They know there's no scarcity. The whole Saudi Arabia story doesn't make sense. There's one well that's 100 million times bigger than any other well, or whatever the wells they got coming out of Jeddah, Riyadh. I ain't been to Saudi in a while. I don't know the other cities, but every single animal that ever died for billions of years must have just migrated over there, like they're migrating over to Mecca to die in the same spot. So all their animal bodies could eventually, over millions of years, become a giant oil well of fossil fuels. Every single mouse that dies in the walls here in the house, every single rat that dies here in the garage, I put in a big coffee press, and they've been in there for years. They ain't produced no oil. There's no, a rat just dries up to dust. It gets very dusty. There's nothing there but the furry back. I ain't seen no oil. So what is this? Did every animal that ever existed migrate to Mecca so it could all die in the same place? So there could be an ocean of oil that comes out of Saudi? No. Well, what are you saying? What is oil then? Nobody knows. We don't know. They won't share it with us. You just have to do some common sense research. I know my presentation is a little strange, but it all boils down to common sense. Damn Google, you just Google it right now. It was like, how much gas does the U.S. by itself, not Belgium and Ireland and France, and Australia and Japan and China. Oh, that little country China, forgot about that. How much does the U.S. use per day? Gas, over 350 million gallons a day. Now, if oil is what they say, just fossil fuels and animals dying in the ground, Matt, we know what we get. We get one day. They build all these cars, plants, all this stuff, and then, okay, here we go, flip the switch. We get one day of use. It would all be used up, the whole world, the whole earth, from one day. 350 million gallons a day, if you add up all the cars and all the other ways gas and petroleum products are used, plastics in your goddamn containers. And they're saying this is from a resource that comes from dead animals in the ground. Are you kidding me? Egg Chen's description or understanding of what oil is from Big Trouble in Little China makes more sense. Egg Chen said to Jack Burton, me. He said, that's Jack, that's the black blood of the earth. Oh, you mean oil? No, Jack, I mean the black blood of the earth. The black blood of the earth that replenishes itself. So to summarize this slide, our state of affairs, if you've been investigating truth, even just a few years, we now see that everything breaks down and is not what authority or society and culture says. And I mean everything. That weird little rant that I just presented about petroleum or what they say it is or what your university professor will say, I could do that if I was at least assuming in what I'm well versed in. I could do that in everything that the authority of this world presents. Okay, you got it. Matt, we're all in the same boat. Stop preaching to us and move the F on. I hear you. Slide number 3. Do they want you to think that figuring it all out is complicated, or they want you to think it's simple? Who is they? Anyone you could run into when you look for real answers in this world. Could be an authority, a government system, a lot of the truth community, whatever it may be. Generally, whatever you may run into, is it simple as just a few slides, or do they want you to think it's complicated? Does, quote, it work hard to make it complicated, or does it work hard to get up in your business and tell you how easy everything it is and how simple it is? Well, of course, a horse is a horse. It works overtime. It works tirelessly and relentlessly, even through the truth community, to convince you how difficult it is, how complicated everything is. Matt, you got to know the difference between Janus and Odin and Zeus and Poseidon and Hermes and Hades and Enlil and Enki, and you got to know the damn Pantheon of Parthenons, and you got to know what that means by putting your heart against the weight of a feather and all that horse shit. You got to know all that shit. You got to listen to every single Manly P. Hall lecture after lecture after lecture. What's he talk? It's just a few slides. What the hell's people like that talking about? See, it sounds so smart, and he's so enlightened that you just have to do lecture after lecture after lecture, because eventually you'll figure it out. No, the entire reality is set up to make it seem extremely complicated. You know what that means? Because it's a liar and a deceiver in every turn, it means the answer is actually simple. It means the answer is actually easy. Oh, I hear you, the dissenters. Those two old Muppets in the balcony. Remember the old guy Muppets in the balcony? It was like Randolph and Mortimer Duke up there in the balcony saying, "You just trying to say it's simple because after your 12 to 15 years trying to figure everything out, Matt, you can't, you dumb son of a beach. You can't figure it out. So then all you got now is it has to be simple." I ain't trying to convince you. I'm presenting the simple explanation here in slides and asking your inner knowing to talk to you, to see what resonates. Is it simple, or you want to go back and listen all this week to 40,000 hours of Manly P. Hall lectures? You decide. I ain't going to convince you of anything here. I'm going to tell you what you already know. All right, 45 seconds or less on this slide. It has to be addressed, though. We have to keep on the table that we're wrong. We'd be ignorant if we didn't. Fork in the road, number one. We're wrong. Matt, that presentation you gave about petroleum makes no sense. It's just completely believable that the world can go through close to 1 billion gallons a day, and it can just, the wells just keep producing, okay, and everywhere you say breaks down like that, when you throw your dart into your Post-it notes, you're simply wrong about. It's completely understandable how a tinfoil lemony Snicket's lem could it didn't need the 300-pound heating and air conditioning unit. I guess what they said about the -200 in the shade and the +200 in the sun, they didn't need no 300-pound metal air conditioning unit attached to the lemony Snicket's lemon. See, that makes you're wrong in poking holes in what authority presents. Okay. Does anybody here think we're wrong? No, you wouldn't be here. The number of things we can poke hole in, which is now up to everything, that can't happen in a real world. So other possibilities have to be kept on the table, other than what the little truther trolls have been barking out for 10 years as everybody's paid and threatened. No, that shit doesn't work anymore. Doesn't work anymore, as we'll soon see. So for the Robert Frost fork in the road, road less traveled, path less taken, whatever the fuck it is, we must assume, of course, we're right. We, at least our little groups of souls and spirits, from our own perspective, we're right. There could be a complete difference in the way reality bubbles interpret reality between you and your cousin or your best friend, as we'll see. So if we're right, at least from our perspective, that's all that matters. It means that, back to the Post-it notes again, almost everything in this entire reality is cake in a lake, which means fake. Okay? We're even where we disagree in this community, we're still on the same page here. Yeah, Matt, I'm with you. It's pretty much all BS if it's presented by Don the Lemon. We still agree. Now going forward is where we may diverge in the woods. Okay, so if we're not wrong, the next 3 slides outline 3 general potential possibilities as to how to explain it if we're not wrong. And everything we look closely at breaks down. So, number 1, and this is actually the leading candidate for most people in truth. Okay, number 1, to explain it all, with 2 more slides to follow. Tens of millions of people in government, quasi-government like the United Nations and the WHO, and secret societies, tens of millions of people in these categories have pulled off tens of thousands of massive deceptions for thousands of years, while never being caught nor making a major mistake that would expose the plot to the masses. Right. Tens of millions of people in government, quasi-government, secret societies, other organizations are all in the know, in on it. They've pulled off tens of thousands of heists, deceptions, and ruses for thousands of years while never being caught nor making a major mistake that would expose this plot. Okay. I don't really understand how a truther that's been doing this more than 6 months can still be here. Well, Matt, you don't understand what the Council on Foreign Relationships... Council on Foreign Relationships? I wish that's what it was. You don't understand what they can do. You don't understand their connections. You don't understand how much the secret societies have infiltrated everything in your King of Prussia mall. If you want to believe that, go ahead. If you just read the way this reads a few times, you'll see it's a little it's far-fetched even for us. For us? Yeah. I don't buy this anymore. Number two, to potentially explain our strange predicament. From this reality's perspective, it is mostly real what's going on, and its news and historical presentations are mostly real from this reality's perspective. It only appears to be fake to us because we are no longer on its frequency, on its download, on its radio station. We are not in tune or in resonance. We're out of phase with reality. We've dived off the back of the ship of fools. And I actually had to look this up. Dove is actually acceptable as well. I thought it was got to be one or the other, but that's like dove, white dove. Dived works more for me, even though it said dove. Dove. Now I'm getting confused. Dove, D-O-V, off the back of the ship of fools is actually more acceptable in the United States and North America. Matt, is this an English class or a goddamn reality overview and expose? Get to it. Sorry. From this reality's perspective, let's say Tony, my friend Tony, it is mostly real. Again, like I complained about a video back, don't take my words out of context. Matt now thinks everything's real. No. Obviously, there's still a bunch of fake presentations, of course. But everything appears that it's completely fake, or every single person on the news explaining an event. Oh, that's a catastrophe thespian. They're paid and threatened. No, reality doesn't work that way. Our sample size is too large now. The millions that would need to be in on it. We've been looking at it in the same way for too long. It's time to put other explanations, ones that question the very nature of reality itself, other explanations and possibilities on your table. Most truthers don't want that. No, it has to fit in the bookends. The explanation has to come from the same toy box. I know. This is what I've been pondering over and over that was put into Turbo Boost after the event that was described yesterday, where the NFL player might have temporarily died on field, this is where I'm at right now. Although number 3 is on the table for me. We'll get to that in a moment. That there's a lot more here from this reality's perspective, and that's all that matters because this reality is the ship of fools. Its standards goes, its metrics goes. If you're not in tune with it, you're the outcast, not your cousin or your brother. We're the ones that should be considered crazy because we're not in line with the reality itself. We're off the ship of fools. Most things are real, but because the entire reality is the entire reality itself, or the overlay, or the plumber's ass crack laid down on the natural world, is a fake presentation designed to distract real souls from doing what they're supposed to do in life. It all appears, of course, and it all breaks down to us as fake. I just don't think it's a coincidence anymore that no matter how strong our common sense argument for whatever topic we're talking about, whatever post-it note is on the wall, nobody we deal with in this reality, like my friend Tony, ever accepts our common sense argument. So number 3 addresses this, coming up in just a moment. But from this reality's perspective, or in the way Tony's reality bubble interprets it, it is real. In terms of yesterday's video about the NFL player that may have briefly died on field, that supposedly still in a hospital ventilator, I didn't do a good job expressing this because I guess I was a little, in terms of talking to you about it yesterday, I was too focused on the player and what actually happened. What was so fascinating to me was the massive size of the presentation, as if Susie Kohlberg back in ESPN studios and everybody got their cue cards. And that's why all of it everything seems so faux to us. And of course, the only way to explain that is everybody's in on it with cue cards, but that's not what's happening. So I didn't express in yesterday's video how strange the presentation, all of reality's presentation, was after the event, or based on the event, or the strange mood in the stadium. And I don't watch the news, but any of you that have walked by a TV set at Jiffy Lube while you're getting your oil change, you see, I guarantee this is the biggest story of all time, and it's still going on. Remember that jet that disappeared? And the news was 99 point whatever % the jet that disappeared. Whenever that happens, it's extremely important to the not milk. and you can't walk by a TV. Probably even still today, and that was Monday night, and yesterday was Tuesday. Today, it's probably still being talked about. Just the presentation throughout all of reality is so unnatural to us based on what happened. Okay, it's not commensurate with the degree of what, if it happened to Tom Brady or one of these icons and people known the world over like Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan, that would be different. But this is, it's not, let's just say, so I don't have any issues with getting this out, that the way everybody's reacting, even your friends and family, it's not commensurate with what happened. So to us, we see through it. This is a reality presentation. But the first grade truther just goes back, okay, then there's no way there's really a guy in a bed. Well, there is a guy in a bed. It's still a faux reality presentation, even if the elements are far more real. This is a much better situation for us because if it's still real, yet we're seeing through it in general. If a reality presentation its elements are real, and we're seeing through the reality presentation, no matter what it is, as faux or fake or cake in a lake, that's better for us because that truly means we're separating from reality. We're not on its frequency. We've doved. Now I combine the damn words. Dived off the back of the ship of fools. This is a much better situation for us that's saying we're progressing. We're ready to graduate or have graduated. Anyway, so guys, I just didn't. It was one last time. Okay, what happened on the field happened on the field, but then the everything just kind of, the presentation took off. The worldwide presentation of it took off, and that's what the experienced person in our community, that's what we immediately detected was this is not natural. But the difference between the first grade truther and the more advanced truther, in my perspective, is the first grade truther just goes into the same toy box and says, "Oh, they're all Susie Culper got her cue cards, and she knows what she's just planned. She's paid, and that's all they can do." Where we say, "No, this shit's real," but we're seeing, say, for lack of a better words, at the metaphysical level, we're seeing through a general reality ruse. We're even if the elements themselves are real, I don't think I even understood what I just said there, but it's the best news for us. If this slide presentation is about to explore all possibilities, then number 3 here has to be left on the table, that reality is simply a grand play and a complete illusion, and some sort of purgatory for souls in a slightly expanded solipsism. I'll explain that in a moment. Everything is fake. Everything's cake in a lake. Everything is absurd as it seems to us, and the people around us are simply part of the illusion. Just automatons, part of the grand play, NPCs. Even number 1 can be explained that everybody's in on it, if this is the case. If reality is a grand play and just an illusion, some sort of purgatory for souls, or maybe that's not the right word, but it's just a strange place, a small group, whether it be the 144,000. This is a slightly expanded solipsism, and I said expanded again. Solipsism, the only thing that can be proven is I exist, and therefore it's possible that nothing else exists. Even my wife might not exist, and my best friend, and I know that I'm me, but has never been my theory. But it could be a slightly expanded solipsism. The number means the number of real people here in this place could be much, much smaller than most of us ever thought. So now they're saying the Earth's population is close to going to 8 or 9 billion, I think they said. When did that happen? But in terms of how many people are completely part of the illusion here, we have to, I'm more with number 2 than number 3, that everything is completely an illusion, and most of my relatives are just completely not real or part of the illusion, and Tony, my friend Tony, and the 140, there's only 144,000 real people. I don't, we'll get into it another time. I could talk for hours on this. I'm a little bit here. I think life is a lot more of an illusion and not very real than we thought, but I'm more with number 2, at least from what you judge to be real it is real here, but as you move away from it, or the Great Divorce, you C.S. Lewis, The Great Divorce it, then it, from our perspective, coming from almost like a totally different plane, it seems fake when if you were in line with it or on its radio station, it is completely real. I'm more in the number 2 camp. I'm not in the number 1 camp. That no matter what your perspective here, Real Soul, Old Soul, Real Boy Pinocchio, we all are on the same playground here, and they're just pulling it off, just making phone calls and getting away with, obviously, I think number 1 is absurd at this point. If this is just a grand illusion, though, I mean, this relates to number 1. Matt, if everything around you is an illusion, there's only a small number of real people here, then they would be able to pull off, it's the illusion pulling it off on the illusion. And the only purpose of the illusion coming through Don the Lemon to convince or to fool your friend Tony, it's the illusion fooling the illusion. The only purpose for that presentation would be to suck you into it, to get you to believe, or to waste your life if it's the illusion fooling the illusion. That's possible. And if that's the case, and it's literally a video game, then everybody could be in on it, and that's not very hard to understand. But most people that cry paid and threatened and everybody's in on it, and the secret societies are doing it, they assume everybody's as real as they are, and they still think it's just the secret societies making phone calls and all. If those people would say, this is a grand illusion, and in an illusion or in a video game of some kind, anything's possible. Billions of people could be in on it if it's a video game, sure. So I have to keep number 3 on the table. My belief set is about 5% number 1, maybe 5% number 3, although the illusion part, I think it is less real, but it's mostly with, 90% or maybe down to 80% is with slide number 2. Much more real than we thought, but only fake to us because we are separating from it, or C.S. Lewis Great Divorcing it, and that does make sense with how we're treated by our friends and family and the people around us as a complete outcast. How we're treated and how we interact with people is much more in line with number 2. If it was number 1, then eventually our common sense argument would be able to get through to the people around us. And we know it has no chance of ever getting through to anybody around us. Here's a key slide, and I don't think I've ever presented it quite this way. If you are a believer in the number 2 slide or number 3 slide, generally you see through the trick and you're able to move forward. If you are a believer, as most of the truth community is, in the number 1 slide, you are falling for the trick. Number 2 and number 3 allow, I think, somebody to move forward and to get to where they need to be. If you're stuck on number 1 as the explanation, that everybody's in on it, and Matt, you don't understand what the Trilateral Commission really can do in this world, then you're falling for the trick. And that's exactly what the reality wants. There's a million ways to fall for the trick here. If you're just waiting outside for Ryan Seacrest to walk by and all the stars on the red carpet, waiting behind the yellow police, do not cross line, and you covet all the stars and covet celebrity, and that is your whole life, of course that's falling for the reality trick, one of a million ways to do it. But that is no worse in terms of falling for the trick than being, in my opinion, the wrong type of truther, or somebody that goes down the wrong path in the truth community. The reality is simply designed the trick to get in front of the interest or the attention or what attracts the person pursuing the distraction. It's the same distraction. Matt, so you're saying the investigation of what happened in 2001 with the submission of the 7-Eleven job application, if somebody dives into that, that can be no different than somebody that just waits for autographs outside of the Oscars or the Grammys ceremony? Yeah, I'm saying it's the exact same thing. Most of the truth community is a trick. It's designed to attract and to get you stuck and to get you on, or your attention on, the wrong things, and to get you to spin your wheels, and to get you to put the wrong type of energy and negative emotion into it. Of course, it's a trick that's simply designed for a different type of person. then that would stand outside of the Oscars or the Grammys and wait to get a celebrity's autograph. In terms of what is being accomplished for themselves or what the Not Nilk wants, I don't see there's any difference. If you're stuck on number one and everybody's in on it, there is no path to progress where we need to be, in my opinion, unless you can get out of it. You can see that itself is part of the trick. It's just a trick that's tailor-made for you, and we all fell for it. All the videos I made about the 7-Eleven job application, and year after year of just simply trying to break down and analyze the events as they were presented, and they turned out to be almost none of them presented turned out to be legitimate. And I mean, all the years that was, even though it seems like that's not what it wanted from us, because it's censored now, it is what it wanted from us. It just hoped that we all stayed there and we didn't progress past it. And the complete illusion slide, the reason I didn't give a higher percentage or more merit to it was it says like it's a complete illusion, like a video game. I think the reality is an illusion for the most part. It's very fluid, can change, but I don't think of it like a complete video game where you could have millions and millions of NPC types and Don the Lemon types completely in on it, and they would never make a mistake, or they would never spill the beans. And so maybe the percentage should be higher, because I do think this world is mostly an illusion. And how that is given away more than any other to me is how we can start investigating something, and very unnaturally, for lack of better words, you'll say reality will keep feeding what we want to find or what we want to see or what we're investigating. And I know people throwing the rubber duckies and saying, well, Matt, that's the reality is a mirror. That's why they use so many mirrors in movies, and it's just a reflection of real consciousness. Of course, I hear you. It's all on the table. I'm not sure we're get into it here. I'm trying to do this in a very simple fashion using just a small number of slides. Reality in a big way as a reflection back at us of the real people that are here. We're the generators and ultimately the manifestors. Okay, we don't just react to it. We in some way create it, and we're tricked to create it. But it's not the purpose here. This isn't my first rodeo. I'm well aware of those issues. To put your ducks down, sink back under the water in the bubbles, and warm the tub. So we'll get into that some other time. But what it does generate. So somebody there would, just to continue along the theme, would say, when it's you saying the realities, if you look into the Transcontinental Railroad like you have, and you expected to find all the gematria and all the number 9s paired with the number 11s and all the stuff I found, sure, but you kind of in a way helped create that. Yeah, that's all on the table, but it still gives the reality away, as that's the illusory nature of it. Whether we help generate it or it's part of the trick or not, Nilk, you go investigate something, or especially something in the truth community that fascinates you, like how perfect it presents in the 2001 job application event, how perfectly it presents both sides to I can only say it this way, I don't know how to say it, the P, in 2001 we have a big debate going on. Is it less filling or tastes great? Is it P or no PP? Not OPP. You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. You down with P or no PP? Yeah, you know me. That debate. Bzzz, boom. And then we went. Most of us now are in the no, not the OPP. We're in the no PP camp. But how perfect. Remember how perfect it plays both sides. We see this over and over again. No real world could do this. The evidence, when we look at millions of things, it just would have to fall clearly on one side or the other. Although we do clearly favor one side, it's Goldilocks. Okay, remember, it's kind of reminding me how many times we've talked about how reality is Goldilocks. It's always right down the middle. Yeah, statistically or from a probability perspective, if you flip, per the law of large numbers, you flip a coin close to 1 million times, it's going to be very close to 50-50. Per the law of large numbers, the probabilities become completely predictable. But the P or no PP debate, that's not a coin where there is only two. So there's a lot of variables there, and it always plays its Goldilocks. So we see it one way, but our cousin sees it another. And inside the truth community, they see it one way, and Matt sees it another. And it's always playing its Goldilocks on multiple fronts and multiple levels, right down the middle. No real world could keep pulling that off. So that gives it away as more illusory. But still, I'm not going to say any names, and I guess he's listening. We went back and forth in an email, and he, about a year ago or so, predicted that this major event would be coming, very catastrophic and bad. And per his research, that's what reality was showing him. It didn't happen, of course. The major event never happened. I told him, I said, it's not going to happen, because this is what reality does. Your research isn't wrong. It's showing you kind of what you expect to find. This is how reality works. And so what happened a year ago? Nothing happened. But then something he was looking into came up again. Something big was supposed to happen in New York in December. And then again, we exchanged emails. I'm like, nothing's going to happen. I'm sure the reality is showing you those clues. It's what it does. It's Geico. It's what it does. I was like, well, how do you know that it's not going to happen? Because this is the game it plays. And people have been fooled in this matter all the way back through Nostradamus. It's not going to happen. But then recently, the last email exchange was like, he still was like, well, Matt, I don't buy what you're saying. I'm like, well, how do you not buy what I'm saying? Where a year ago, this major thing, I told you it wasn't going to happen. It didn't happen. Then you went down the same path again. I told you it wasn't going to happen. It didn't happen. And I mean, the type of thing where, you'd want to prep for something major, like, it's not going to happen. But then he still's like, I don't see your point. Like, well, you were twice went down this breadcrumb trail that was, of course, artificially generated by reality itself, unless you completely didn't interpret the signs correctly. I believe the signs were there, but that's the game that reality plays. But he still doesn't buy my position here. I don't know how after two things he doesn't buy what I'm saying, but okay, whatever. Maybe, you shouldn't. The point is, don't go down this a third time. Learn that, this is what reality is going to do to me, and don't get sucked in the third time. That's the whole point. Before the final slide, if you can't read it, this is the Alan Parsons Project, Eye in the Sky, which also contains Sirius album cover. Have to address this because it'll be like this little group of truthers, spitballers. This really is my pet peeve. It'll be like, after all that I said that might make a little bit of sense, like, oh, look, Matt's displaying the Eye of Horus. I knew he wasn't to be trusted. Oh, well, just throw out everything I said, and because I put an I or I put a 33 somewhere, then just throw out everything that made sense because there's a potential hand symbol. This stuff drives me crazy. So it's the Alan Parsons Project album cover. And when in the truth community we're meant to run away from something, it means we shouldn't run away from it. And it has real meaning, things we can use. Not in the way Katy Perry wants to present it, but what it really is. Maybe it is the side cut of the brain and the pineal. Maybe it's a map. Who knows? You need to look at this Eye of Horus, not the way that the creeps keep presenting it, or Bono wants to put it out to you, or how it presents in an Aleister Crowley book. You can say, what good can come out of this? Remember in, if you saw the horrible Rings of Power, she says, oh, this symbol's a map. Maybe it's a map of some. I have never even thought about it. I doubt I'm going to spend next weekend staring at the Eye of Horus to figure out all it can be. Is it a side cut of the brain, the pineal? I'm saying it's not all these symbols. It's not evil. If the truth community is given a certain way it should be presented or interpreted by Katy Perry and the creeps, and we're meant to run from something like the gematria, like the 33, then that means we are meant to run from it, and we shouldn't run from it. We have a right to use it just as the creeps do. Now, after all that, even if we disagree in a lot of the smaller areas, as long as we have a general agreement on the basics, we emerge to this very simple path. Once again, it says the true path is clear. What is it? 5 bullet points. 5 bullet points for all of reality? Yeah. You can believe it's complicated and jump back into the distraction if you want. Number one, see through the trick. There's nobody here listening to this that hasn't seen through the trick. Although you might not see it as gigantic and across the board as I do, you pretty much see most of the things that Don the Lemon presents is a trick to be avoided. Okay, we agree. Pretty simple. Are you done once you see through the trick? You're not done. That's when it really gets hard. Okay, see through the trick, but make sure you avoid its distractions. You're going to go back and do another year of research on what happened to the side of the Pentagon, or potentially that's what it wants. No longer take the bait. Keep your energy by keeping your attention on the right things. Pretty simple. Most of us still, people in the front row shaking their head, I can see that. Yeah, pretty simple. I agree. See through the trick. Don't jump back into what it wants. Okay. Unblock inner knowing. That was a big part of a video about a week back. Any way you can, unblock inner knowing. Do a whole video on how this can be done, so no reason to jump into it here. Worry about, this next one says, worry about yourself. Do the work in life you're supposed to do here now while you have time. It's absurdly quick how fast this life goes by. No moment can be even, can ever be touched while it's happening. Always in the past. 10 years turn to 20. We have to do the work we're supposed to do here now. So most people don't know, even advanced in this community, don't know what it is they're supposed to do. They don't really have an idea of what the work is. And you'll get a sense of that if you work on it, or get a pad and paper, and all it is these are the things you have to work on. Have yourself, but then also have your observer self. Here comes your brother over for dinner or holidays, your cousin and his wife or her husband is going to annoy you and dig at you. And here it comes again, and the observer self notices in you, here it comes again, and look at the way I'm reacting to it. And isn't that something I have to work on? Or put it in your pad and paper, and the observer self says, wait a second, don't fall for this. If you can't get over this, your brother's husband, sister's cousin's wife's annoyance at the holidays, if you can't get over this, then you expect to get your eternal self out of this reality system, and you can't get over that? Matt, if you can't even get over a rooster up the road, you think you can get your entire essence of spirit out of this reality system? You can't even overcome that? You got a lot of work to do, boy. So the rooster is still there, and I smile. And I go, it's just, the reasons it annoys me, I get in touch with that. And to always address something right in the face, right straight up to it, is always the way to do it. So obviously, maybe we have some more work to do for our eternal selves than getting over a rooster or having dinner with Aunt Tootie's husband. That's where it starts. But all these things are cumulative, and we notice where, oh boy, look, I'm worrying about this again, and this is something I better get over. We have a lot more to do here than that. So all of that, that's where it starts. And just because it's little doesn't mean it's not part of the general work we have to do here for you or the spiritual side of you that's not here. So, obviously it's not the point of this video, but we'll talk about that more in the future. Yeah, we've seen through the trick. Now the real work starts. Seeing through the trick, especially the way it's being presented, it's so pathetically presented. That's the easy part for real boy Pinocchio, real girl Pinocchio, real soul. That's the friggin' easy part. So then the final one says, taking whatever into the moment of death. Do you have full confidence? He said, I've done everything I can do here for myself. Or if you're a believer that you're an aspect of higher self. Hey, higher self, I'm 82 years old or 85 years old, and hey, not feeling too good, and there's probably only a year or so left or a few months left, and I've done everything there is to do here for you, higher self. Get me the fuck out of here. Get us out of here. We don't need to do this no more. We worry about tricks and Archon's going to come swooping in like Batman at death. You probably manifest that on yourself if you believe that. So It's pretty simple, guys. At the end of the day, the entire reality is out to distract. From these 5 simple bullet points, yes. It's that simple with us? Yeah, it is, in my opinion. Maybe I'm an idiot simpleton. But, like Levette, Levette was trying to do the right thing, and she did the right thing when she put all these esoteric tomes together on that USB drive, and at her own expense, who knows how many hundreds of dollars she spent sending these thumb drives out. But somebody I emailed back and forth with got one, and I don't know. Was there like 1,000 esoteric or occult tomes, and works, tens of millions of words collectively. And I thought, that is a layer then of distraction. It can't possibly be that complicated. Now, if all these things are investigated at your leisure, or because it fascinates you, or it's your hobby, listening to endless lectures from Manly P. Hall, and you just like to explore big things, but to think you need to clear through book after book after book after book and millions of lines to figure out what you need to do in this life to win, for lack of a better word, it's 2 sentences. Believe I'm a simpleton if you want, and I'm just too dumb to figure it out. But it's not just me. It works very hard at presenting the complexity, especially in the truth community, especially here. So you see what it's trying to do. The answers are very simple. Thanks for listening.